bring in Chris Johnston, who was at this morning's proceedings from Sportsnet.ca and Hockey Central. Chris, was this just the inevitable, like a lot of people are trying to allude to?
Guys, it's certainly how it felt here this morning. Even, I thought Dave Nonis's press conference, there wasn't sort of a lot of emotion in the air or tension. It was almost as though everyone kind of knew that this day was coming, that we'd all be in that room talking about that very thing at some point. And while I didn't wake up this morning thinking that Randy Carlyle would be fired, once it finally did happen, it doesn't feel like much of a surprise to me anyway.
Yeah, Chris, you follow this team on a daily basis. What's the feel amongst your core group there in the media that the timing, was it a surprise?
Well, I know it surprised a lot of the players even, because it's just a team, guys, that it's gone so up and down so often that I think that everyone just sort of assumed, they'll go on one of these, stretches where they win 6 or 7 games in a row and everything will be fine again. And I really think what, part of what the move is intended to do is to try to shake them out of that line of thinking. And, to me, this is a dressing room that is a little bit divided, maybe even a little bit more than that. And, in talking to some of the players, Cody Franz, I think is the most sort of, for me, the most mature voice, has the best kind of pulse on that room, was saying today that they have issues with accountability internally amongst themselves. And to me, that's almost, more notable than Randy Carlyle being fired. It's sort of that public admission that, that this is, a flawed group, which is something I guess, you guys probably talk about a lot and something we've long suspected.
From your perspective, again, from being on a day-to-day basis, you just mentioned that some of the players might be divided here. Do you think that that's the case with their core group?
I think so.
Kessel, Phaneuf, are they on the same page?
Any team that gets to this sort of situation probably is on some level, Nick. But I do think there's some in there that think, everything's fine. We are going to win those 6 games in a row. We're going to score a bunch of goals here. Luck's going to turn. And I do think that there's another faction that is maybe a little bit more honest about where they're at as a team, and that real change has to be made. There has to be more commitment, more hard work, believe it or not. I even had one guy say quietly today he doesn't think that they've been slacking a little bit. So, to me, what I took away from, this day is more, I found much more interesting the things the players were saying, because it does seem like there's quite a fracture there at the moment.
Randy was fired because this team couldn't gain any consistency in their play,
right?
Or was Randy fired because the team is not good enough? It's not good enough to play the way they have to play. We've watched it for 5 years. It's changed minimally with the same core group. Is it time to say, if we don't change the core group on this hockey team, if we don't make some adjustments in that group, you can have Toe Blake himself come in here and coach?
Well, and I think, Mac, that'll be proven in time if that's what happens.
So 5 years isn't a long enough window? Or 6?
Well, I mean, there's been different faces over 5 or 6 years, but I think that what management was saying with the move is they didn't feel that he was getting enough out of these guys. What we're going to learn is if can anyone get through to them? I mean, there's a lot of
that's the question.
There's something to that, and the problem, as we all know, in the cap world, it's just they got a lot of anchored type of contracts, and it's not as easy as just wanting to trade someone. And they're stuck with a lot of these guys, and they're trying to make the best of it, I think, but. You're right. It might be an unfair day in some ways to Randy Carlyle that he might not have been given the players he needed to perform, the way management wanted to see.
So is this just going through the motions for the rest of the season and waiting to hire Mike Babcock in the summer?
I think so. Frankly, someone told me again today that from the Leafs perspective is very much a thing. That it's not just something that we've concocted to talk about all year in the media, that the Leafs are interested. And, as a result, I would be a little bit surprised to see them name a full-time head coach now. I mean, obviously.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take I think that's why ultimately they were hoping to get through the year with Carlisle, just because, it's sort of an awkward situation now because, they still are in a playoff spot. I think, they would like to make the playoffs. It's more money in the owner's pockets than that. But, it's going to be a very strange half a season here, I think, especially if there's an interim tag on Peter Horacek and Steve Spott and, everyone's kind of just waiting for the summer to see how it unfolds.
Chris,
with Babcock.
You've been around the team every day, and you've got a proud guy in Randy. And you saw what happened to him in June, where both his assistant coaches were fired by upper management, and 2 assistant coaches were hired by upper management without his, I don't know how much input he had into it. Have you seen a different Randy Carlyle this year that's saying, what is going on here, really? I'm the head coach, but has there been any sign of that, or has he fought through that?
From my perspective, and the way we're around him is only part of his day, but I thought publicly he did a very good job of portraying that
Totally.
he was at ease with everything. I think he's not. I'm sure he's not happy today, but I don't think he's entirely surprised that this day came either.
Oh no, I think he might be happy today.
Maybe it's a relief too. I mean, it's
real happy.
That's possible too. But I think he did a really good job of just saying, Carpe diem. He was just he did it his way. He still played Bozak and Kessel, 25, 26 minutes in Minnesota. I think he, in some ways he didn't manage a team the way, the management would have liked, and that might have in some ways pushed this closer to happening. But, to me, I just think he seized it, and he probably knew this was coming, and he did it his way.